First, start off with how you view this meeting that is in fact taking place between US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi.
Look, the fact of the matter is Trump is going there under a big disadvantage, which is his falling popularity and a very strong push, unfortunately, even by Republicans to end the war in Iran because of the high inflation and the knockdown effect on prices all over. So the situation is that she is very definitely not going to help Trump on Iran. She is fully supporting Iran. I'm sure US intelligence is aware of that. And Trump going to China, and he's making some very sweet talk about Xi. You remember Trump was the last president to visit China in 2017, if I recall. And that trip also was a wasted and futile trip. So there are big issues between US and China, issues that cannot be solved by sweet words, issues that cannot be solved except by compromise on one side or the other. And Xi Jinping is not willing to compromise because he sees that Trump is in a huge amount of political trouble. The Iran war is not going well, mainly because of Trump and his hesitations, if I may say so. So overall, I think this is a very wrong time to have a meeting with Xi Jinping, and it conveys the entirely wrong attitude throughout the world that the US is now diminished and China is now increasing in stature. Very, very unfortunate.
Right. And Professor Nalapat, I also want to understand then, do you believe that there will be certain compromises made by the US, softening of stance on, either Taiwan or the South China Sea? Because, like you mentioned, China does seem to have the upper hand over here.
Look, if any such compromises are made, then the US alliance system built from 1945 end onwards will completely collapse. So I don't know what Trump will do or not do. Trump is very unpredictable, and in my personal view, he ought to have been removed long back, and J.D. Vance made the President of the United States, but that has not yet happened. So the reality is that I don't see what compromises Trump can make without destroying himself politically and destroying the Republican Party politically. The Republican Party is quite strong where China is concerned. And I may again remind you that on the flight from Washington to Beijing, which Trump was making, Marco Rubio was dressed in the same sort of fatigues that Nicolas Maduro was dressed in when he was arrested. In other words, is Marco Rubio conveying an impression that he is going shackled to Beijing? He's unable to say what he wants because the reality is the Chinese are looking for concessions, and each concession will be at the expense of the United States. And the more concessions Trump makes, the less popular he's going to become. And that is, frankly, this whole trip, in my view, is a wasted exercise. For Trump, it was a media event, a media show, but it's much more than that. It concerns global geopolitics. And in global geopolitics, Trump has shown that he is unable to understand the situation, leave alone handle it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Nalapat, for taking out your time and for speaking to NewsX. In fact, we also have the statement from the US President Donald Trump during that meeting. Let's play that out for you as well.
Well, President Xi, I want to thank you very much. First of all, that was an honor like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing, and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And that's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, President Xi, I want to thank you very much. First of all, that was an honor like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing, and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And that's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China.
Mr. Tejawat, we just heard the US President Donald Trump's opening statements during that meeting. He's mentioned the long history that both these individuals have had over the past few years. He's also mentioned that he's got the A team, the top leaders of all the tech giants in America to Beijing for these talks. I want to understand, Mr. Tejawat, from your perspective. Mr. Srivastava brought out a very interesting point that he does not see this as a G2 meet. Like experts are calling it as the digital G2, because these two countries are talking about AI, they're talking about, semiconductors, rare earths. What's your take on this issue?
Yeah, of course, the AI, semiconductors, and the technological cooperation is, of course, very important point of discussions. But here there are more important issues what President Trump has stated in his statement. In fact, the most of the experts, they don't take President Trump seriously because actually there is no reliability of President Trump's statement. But I fear that this time what he's stating is very much true, and of course he's opening his platform for the China and clearly saying that come and join together to loot the rest of the world. And I know that the US diplomats are more aggressive and more critical towards the China. In turn, the China is always tried to maintain the balance and was not too much harsh for the United States. And at this state of point, if we see the agenda items, then United States has clearly stated that there is a trade, there is a big and there is a great trade imbalance. And that one is of 200 US, 200 billion US dollar. And the United States has clearly stated that, of course, the United States is having a reserve gas, oils, petroleum, everything what the China wants. Then just let the United States do what the United States is wanted to do. So that's why the United States has offered that get a gas from us, petroleum for us, and there is a big trade deficit. Try to manage it by purchasing the fighter planes and some other weapons from the United States, which is basically a lifetime for the U.S. economy, selling weapons. And of course, there is a great pressure on President Trump even, because there are very powerful people in United States who are really having a control over the U.S. president. Either it's a Republican or it's a Democrat. So United States is really stating in his statement, probably the most of experts will not take it seriously, that President Trump is not reliable and export to just show a gesture that, okay, we are here with the open heart, but it's really a danger for the, as I stated in the beginning, that it's a danger for the rest of the world. If the United States will start supplying gas and many other important minerals which being supplied by the Iran and the Middle East, then of course the China is not going to protect his interest in the Middle East. And the only issue that China has really invested lots of money in the Java port and many other the military bases there in the Middle East, of course, that the China is having, not as large what the United States is having there, but even the China is having some of the bases. So if the United States is saying that let's come together and loot the rest of the world, then I think that the Chinese will think about it very seriously. And now I think that the United States is very much lenient in terms of the Taiwan issue. So let's see that what it is happening. And of course, this bilateral meeting is happening after 9 years, which is a big time period. But let's see that in a new world order, how the Chinese and the United States is seeing the rest of the world.
So you are in fact taking his statements seriously. Let me rope in Mr. Srivastav and ask him if the world will take his statements seriously or not. Mr. Srivastav, obviously Trump is a tweet kind of a person. He gives out statements on a whim. These statements that are coming just at the start of this negotiation, he has highlighted, the long history, the camaraderie that both the leaders actually share. He's highlighted how they have been calling each other over conflicts whenever there is a problem and, resolving it quickly. Do you believe that these statements are a way of the US trying to say, or US trying to, make a position for itself on the table when US President Donald Trump is facing a lot of backlash, say globally and also within the United States as well?
Well, I think what President Trump has said in the beginning of this visit, I think these are welcome remarks and quite mature remarks he has made. And a pleasant gesture he has shown to the people of China. And when he was talking about those children, those who welcomed him, and their gestures towards them, and obviously the Chinese military gave a guard of honor to him, and all those pleasantries and gestures and welcome is done when a high dignitary visits to another country. And these are well-established customs and traditions. But there's no doubt that the U.S.-China relationship is a major power relationship, and these two countries are major economies, major strategically important country. And but the baseline and the reality of this relationship is that it is based on various elements of contestation, rivalry, and a lot of such tense moments have been there in the U.S.-China relationship in the last 9 years too, and even previous times too. And I'm very sure that those issues of contestation and the competition will remain and will feature time and again at frequent intervals in future too. So there's no doubt that this relationship is going to have a lot of phases of competition, contestation, rivalry.
Right.
And United States of America obviously cannot compromise on its core policy issues, either with regard to Taiwan or the Indo-Pacific region, or United States of America knows very well that what kind of security assurances they have given to Taiwan or to Japan or to South Korea and various other nations of the world, those who are very much concerned about the Chinese expansionist designs. I think various security assurances do keep giving by the United States of America from time to time. So Trump administration cannot ignore. So when he is on that soil of China, in Beijing, he will say a lot of those things in pleasant remarks, but that does not mean that the ground realities have altered or changed. And I do not think that any kind of, again I would say, the G2-like situation will not be sustainable for the US establishment. And it will not be sustainable even for the President Trump. Yes.
All right. Mr. Srivastava and Mr. Tejawat, I'll request you to stay on with us. We are slipping into a very short commercial, but we'll be right back.
Sip, sip, jira, sip,